Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a really fascinating journey. We're looking into the ancient history written in our DNA. Specifically, we're focusing on Iran, a region that researchers, well, they found it to be genuinely unique. We've got a bunch of sources here, genetic studies, historical analyses, and our mission really is to unpack all this for you. We want to reveal this picture of, like, ancient continuity, amazing diversity, and Iran's kind of foundational role in the genetic story of a whole continent.
Okay.
It's often overlooked, actually.
It really is. And that's why a deep dive like this is so important. Genetic studies, when they're done carefully, they just have this incredible ability to uncover layers of history. Things like migrations, deep connections, stuff that traditional records like history books or archaeology might completely miss. It gives us this richer sort of multidimensional view of our past. It's still surprising us, honestly. We're looking at patterns etched right into our cells spanning thousands of years.
Absolutely. And there's this central puzzle, this paradox we'll explore, which makes Iran so compelling. How can one population show such deep, ancient genetic unity and, at the same time, have this really striking internal diversity?
Right.
It sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it? But the answers we're going to dig into offer some, well, pretty profound new perspectives. Okay, so let's start unpacking this. One of the most amazing findings, researchers keep finding that modern Iranians share a genetic continuity going back, get this, 5,000 years.
5,000 years.
Yeah, just think about that. 5 millennia, a sort of unbroken genetic line.
Which is just incredibly rare, globally speaking.
Especially for a place that's been such a crossroads, right? Empires, cultures, people moving through.
Exactly.
And yet across all these different ethnic groups in Iran, Persians, Kurds, Azeris, Lurs, the genetic data shows they cluster together.
The Central Iranian cluster.
Right, that's what the scientists call it. And it's not just a label, is it? It points to millennia of shared ancestry, a deep connection.
It really does. And what's so remarkable about that kind of continuity, that sort of limited disruption from outside migrations, especially in such a strategically important place, is what it means for understanding history. Unlike other places, maybe parts of Europe, where you see these big population replacements or genetic turnovers.
Right, complete shifts sometimes.
Exactly. Iran gives us this stable, unbroken genetic baseline. It's like having a really well-preserved historical document, genetically speaking.
So it lets you see the smaller details.
Precisely. You can trace the smaller, more nuanced movements and interactions without all the noise from major upheavals. It's a unique window into ancient demographics. It shows how populations can kind of hold on to their core genetic identity even while the world changes around them.
Okay, so that's the unity part. But then we hit that paradox you mentioned earlier. If there's this ancient continuity, how can there also be extreme genetic heterogeneity within it? This is where it gets really fascinating for me. People have done these studies, genome-wide data, over 1,000 people across like 11 different ethnic groups within Iran. And the results clearly show striking genetic differences, significant variations between these groups.
Yeah.
But they still have that shared root we just talked about. So how does that work?
That's a great question. And it's not really a contradiction. It's more like a complex reality, a fascinating one. Think about it. While there's that deep ancestral root tying them together, it's totally natural for different groups, even in the same general area, to develop unique genetic signatures over thousands of years.
Okay, how though? What kind of factors?
Well, things like settling in different valleys or mountain ranges, becoming a bit isolated geographically.
Right.
Or internal migrations for trade, maybe farming, even just random genetic drift happening in smaller communities over long periods. These things create distinct variations, like different flavors built on that shared ancient foundation.
Ah, okay, so it's unity and diversity.
Exactly. And this blend really pushes us to think beyond simple categories of ethnicity or identity from purely a genetic standpoint.
Okay.
It shows how dynamic and layered these concepts actually are.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not just one thing or the other, it's richer. So if we zoom in even more, how do these patterns show up in the specific family lines, the ones passed down through mothers and fathers? Let's start with the maternal lines. This is passed down through mitochondrial DNA, the mtDNA, right? Mother to child.
That's right.
Okay, get this statistic. It's pretty jaw-dropping. Researchers looked at just 352 Iranians.
Okay, a relatively small sample.
Yeah, and they found 315 unique mtDNA haplotypes.
Wow, almost one per person.
Almost. And 1,267 polymorphic sites. Now, a haplotype is like a unique genetic signature from the mother's side, right?
Yep, a distinct branch on the maternal tree.
And those polymorphic sites mean lots of individual genetic variations within those
It's an
lines.
incredible variation.
Exactly. Finding that many unique signatures with that much internal variation in just over 350 people.
Hmm.
It's just astonishing.
It absolutely is. That level of maternal diversity in a small sample, it tells a really profound story. It speaks volumes about the ancient movements, the lives of women across the Iranian plateau, and importantly, about the social structures back then. It suggests women from many, many different distinct ancient groups contributed to the gene pool over millennia.
Carrying their unique markers.
Precisely. It completely challenges any simple idea that ancient societies were just homogeneous or isolated. Instead, you see this picture of constant, complex interaction, intermarriage, movement, all embedded deep in the maternal lines.
Okay, so that's the mother's side, incredibly diverse. What about the father's side, the paternal lines, using Y chromosome data?
The Y-DNA tells a similar story, actually,
Yeah.
still one of incredible diversity. It really highlights Iran's role as this major genetic melting pot.
Okay.
The study showed this really interesting breakdown. About 31.4% belong to haplogroup J, mostly the J2 branch.
J2, okay.
Then about 29.1% are in haplogroup R, another big chunk.
Right.
Then you've got 11.8% in G and 9.2% in E.
Wow, so that's a real mix of major paternal lineages.
It absolutely is. And that diversity strongly points to Iran's key role in, well, shaping paternal lineages across Eurasia. If you think about what those haplogroups mean, J2 is often linked to the spread of agriculture from the Near East, way back in the Neolithic.
Ah, okay. The farming connection.
Right. And R has links to later movements, maybe Bronze Age expansions across Eurasia.
Mm-hmm.
And G, especially G1, which we'll get to, has its own ancient roots right there. So this mix tells us Iran wasn't just a land bridge people passed through. It was a major crossroads, yes, but also a center where different population streams met, settled, interacted.
Leaving their genetic fingerprints.
Exactly. It suggests this really dynamic history. Different waves of migration coming through, settling down, mixing. You have to wonder, what ancient trade routes, what kind of interactions or settlements could lead to this kind of mix across the whole continent?
That's a really interesting question. Does the archaeology back that up? Do we see evidence of those routes?
Oh, definitely. The archaeological record strongly supports Iran as a hub. You have the famous Silk Road, of course, but much older routes too, connecting Mesopotamia to the Indus Valley, Central Asia to the Mediterranean.
Wow. Ancient highways.
Pretty much. And they weren't just for moving goods, they were for moving people, ideas, genes. So finding haplogroups like J2 and R in those proportions fits really well with the archaeological story of farming spreading and later pastoralist groups moving across huge distances.
And Iran's right in the middle of it all.
Exactly. A central node where these different human stories converged and mingled. It's a beautiful link between the genetics and the archaeology.
Okay, let's go even deeper now, further back in time, to the foundations of these populations. Researchers talk about Mesolithic and Neolithic people, so hunter-gatherers and early farmers, on the Iranian plateau carrying a huge amount of something called Basal Eurasian lineage.
Yeah, that's a key finding.
Between 48 and 68% of their ancestry. Now, for listeners, Basal Eurasian, that's a really ancient human lineage, right? One of the earliest branches to split off after humans left Africa.
That's a good way to put it, a very early diverging lineage.
And the rest of their ancestry was linked to groups like ancient North Eurasians or Eastern European hunter-gatherers.
Right, a mix.
These huge percentages going back tens of thousands of years. It tells an incredible story about our really early ancestors.
And what's so fascinating here is how this specific mix, that really high Basal Eurasian part in ancient Iranians, became fundamental elsewhere. It essentially set the genetic foundation for South Asia's Indus Valley civilization.
Wow, really? So Iran's influence stretched that far genetically?
Absolutely. This isn't just Iran as a crossroads anymore. It positions Iran as a kind of silent genetic architect for South Asia. Before this genetic data, ideas about where the Indus Valley people came from were based more on pottery or linguistic guesses. This genetic link shows that early Iranians played this huge ancestral role in populating and shaping the genetics of a massive, incredibly important region way beyond their own borders. It really expands our view of those ancient connections.
That's mind-blowing. And there's more, isn't there? A specific Y chromosome lineage that's almost uniquely Iranian.
Yes, haplogroup G1. Specifically, the GM285 subclade. The research strongly suggests it actually originated in Iran.
We originated there.
seems likely.
Yeah.
And it's most concentrated there today, about 5% in southern Iran, maybe 3% in the north. But it's pretty rare almost everywhere else in the world.
So it's like a distinct genetic signature of the region.
Exactly. Which raises another interesting question, doesn't it? What factors would cause a specific lineage to pop up and then stay so concentrated in one place, become a sort of genetic hallmark?
Good question. Maybe they didn't move much after it appeared.
Could be a strong founder effect, maybe early isolation of that particular group, or perhaps they were just very successful, population-wise, but mainly stayed within those geographical boundaries. It points to some unique historical process where this lineage flourished locally and just stayed put, becoming this clear marker for Iranian ancestry over thousands of years.
Okay, so bringing this all together, what does it mean for how we think about things today? This gets us into what the research calls the controversies that spark debate. Because genetics is powerful, but it also brings up complex questions about identity, history. We're back to that paradox. How do you have a population that clusters together genetically, this homogeneous cluster, but is also full of diverse genes internally?
Yeah.
How does that genetic picture mesh with things like language, culture, personal identity in a place like Iran with such a deep, complex history?
That's exactly where the nuance comes in and where things get debated. Take the Basal Eurasian connection we talked about. That high percentage in ancient Iranians directly links them to the origins of South Asian populations, like the Indus Valley.
Right.
This finding has thrown fuel on a long-running debate among linguists and archaeologists
About what specifically?
about the spread of languages, particularly Dravidian languages versus Indo-Aryan languages in South Asia.
Yeah.
There are different theories. Did Indo-Aryan languages arrive with migrations from Central Asia? Did they develop locally?
I see.
The genetic evidence showing this deep link from the Iranian plateau into the Indus Valley's foundational populations. It suggests a really complex picture. Maybe older movements from Iran that predate some of the later language shifts people talk about.
So it doesn't solve the debate, but adds a crucial new piece.
Precisely. It provides new data that forces everyone to rethink the old models. It reshapes the landscape of the discussion.
That really shows how genetics can push science forward. But there's another concern, right, about focusing too much on broad ethnic groups.
Yes, the grouping versus individual identity issue.
Critics point out, and it's a fair point, that while using labels like Persian or Kurd in studies helps us see big patterns and deep history,
Essential for population genetics.
it might also smooth over the incredibly rich local histories, the language changes, the way individuals actually see themselves and their communities.
Yeah.
How do we handle that tension?
It's a really important tension to be aware of. Genetic studies give us this amazing scientific lens on population history, deep ancestry, fantastic insights. But we always have to remember, it's just one piece of the identity puzzle, a huge, multifaceted puzzle.
Right. Culture, language, personal experience.
Exactly. They're shaped by so much more than just our genes. The responsibility, I think, for researchers and for us discussing it is to be precise, be nuanced, encourage critical thinking about how we use this genetic data alongside all the other narratives, the cultural ones, the historical ones that define people's actual lived experience. It's about seeing the patterns without losing sight of the individual threads in the tapestry.
Wow. Okay, what an incredible journey today. This deep dive has really uncovered some amazing things. That staggering 5,000-year genetic continuity on the Iranian plateau, the simultaneous, extreme diversity within that continuity across different groups, the detailed stories from the maternal and paternal lines, connecting Iran way out into Eurasia,
Yeah.
seeing Iran as this hub for ancient Basal Eurasian lineages, literally helping shape South Asia's genetics.
Silent architect.
Yeah, and discovering that unique origin story for haplogroup G1 right there in Iran, this really gives you, our listeners, a shortcut to being well-informed on something that genuinely changes how we understand human history and where we all come from.
Absolutely. And maybe just a final thought to leave you with, something to chew on. We think about our personal stories being shaped by our lives, our choices, our culture, right? But how do these incredibly deep, ancient genetic narratives, these patterns laid down thousands of years ago, things we usually don't even know about, how might they silently influence our sense of belonging, our connection to place, maybe even the very definition of who we feel we are? It's a fascinating question, isn't it? About that interplay between the ancient history coded in ourselves and the identities we live out every single day.